Yo, what's up, Arise Youth? Hey, I am super excited to come hang out with you guys. Hey, make sure to come back next Wednesday. We got youth in person. Come on, somebody. Hey, we got summer clubs this summer, so make sure to sign up on the church center. Get plugged in community. You don't want to miss out. You know, hey, stick to the end because we got a podcast at the end and you don't want to miss it. Me and Pastor Jeremiah are going to be cooking, so make sure you want to be there, all right? And I'm going to jump off now.
Subscribe! Man, I'm so sad that we're not going to have youth.
Yeah, bro, that sucks, man. Whoever that knew was a loser, bro.
At least we're going to have it after, though. You know?
That's true. We are going to have online service. Well, dang. Bro, I guess they want you to rap, bro. It's on you.
Welcome to our online youth episode, Arise the Youth. Let the truth be told. We're here to lift you up, never let you down. Shine a light in the dark, turn it all around. In the name of Jesus, we're standing tall, breaking chains, tearing down every wall, united in faith. We're the chosen crew, living for the King and everything we do. Let's get it. Hey! Thank you guys for joining us and welcome to our online episode.
All right, what is up? My name is Jonny. We're going to go do some Bible trivia right now. Are you guys ready? Let's go. Hey, Pastor George, quick question for you. We're doing Bible trivia. Who was the disciple that denied Jesus 3 times?
Peter.
Beautiful. Hey, Pastor Cody, who is your favorite pastor on Arise staff?
I'm going to say...
Right here?
I want to say Pastor Danny.
Well, it's because he has a mullet, isn't it? That's messed up. You know what? Give me your daughter.
What?
Who was the first person to see Jesus after his resurrection?
It was a woman.
It was a woman. Good job.
Was it Mary?
Yes, good job. They even know that in London, people. Good job. All right, which king had a dream about a statue made of different materials that Daniel interpreted?
Nebuchadnezzar.
Yeah, could you spell that for me?
Nebzer.
Perfect. All right, Desiree, I got a question for you. Bible trivia right here. Let's see how you do. Which book in the New Testament has the fruit of the Spirit listed?
Colossians?
Galatians, way to go. What is the longest chapter in the Bible? You want to phone a friend?
Yes.
Phone a friend, what is it?
Is it Psalms 119?
Psalms 119, let's go! Cool. All right, Pastor Marilee, I got a question for you. Who was the mother of Samuel the prophet?
Samuel the prophet. She was an amazing woman of God.
Do you know her name?
She was an amazing woman of God. She heard from the...
But do you know her name?
Do you know her name?
Yeah, it's Hannah. I got it right here in my cheat sheet. Got it! What was Jesus' mother's name? What was Jesus' mother's name? That is Bible trivia. We love you guys. We cannot wait to see you next week. Stay tuned for the podcast.
Okay.
I mean, we're not recording it.
Oh, we're
we are.
Okay.
Oh, we're recording.
Okay. What's
your weirdest habit?
What's my weirdest habit? Oh man, there's one I want to say, but I was told not to. It's okay.
Well, what is up, Arise Youth?
Come on.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this little podcast episode. So glad you're here. And today, I'm joined by a very special guest.
Come on.
YPD.
Come
Youth
on. That's gonna
Pastor Danny.
stick. Come on.
In case you haven't heard yet, he is our brand new youth pastor at the Brandon location. Super, super exciting. So you've got this new sort of season that you're stepping into, this new season of God's calling on your life. So today, let's just talk a little bit about purpose. So I guess what is purpose just in general?
Yeah, so I think purpose, it is a very general idea, right, or topic, but it could also be very specific. So we know as Christians, I'd even say Christians, as humans, I believe all of us are created to walk in relationship with God and to walk in relationship with others. Right. So that right there is like the general concept of our purpose. We're called to live in union with God and with people. Now to the specifics of purpose, like I can't like tell that to people. I don't know who you were specifically made to be, but I do believe that there isn't a copy and paste method when it comes to our lives. Like I believe that God has created billions and billions and billions of people throughout history, but there's only one of you.
Right.
And I think that's very true.
so then I think a lot of times I've heard the question a ton. I remember thinking it a lot. I would think, well, what is my calling?
Yeah.
Or like, what is my purpose? What is the specific thing that God's calling me out to do? If like I'm working through that, what would you like say to me? Like, how do I get to that?
Yeah. So I would say for me, like, I mean, I got saved like 5 years ago, and I'd be lying to you if I had a moment with God and he's like, hey, you're going to be the next Billy Graham. Like, that did not happen, right? But he did put a passion in me to want to be in his presence as much as possible. So I immediately got connected. So I found the closest local church I knew, which was this small church in Waimamo, Florida. The pastors were, both of them, the married couple, over 90 years old. And I just wanted to serve. I wanted to get plugged in. I just wanted to be in God's presence and God's home. So immediately I just started doing whatever I was asked to do. I was doing tech. I was doing kids ministry for a bit, which is crazy to ask a new convert to do your kids ministry, but I guess whatever. I guess they didn't have much other people to ask. But I mean, I did everything from even cleaning the bathroom. Cleaning the church after, like cleaning toilets, mopping floors, like locking down the church and stuff like that. And I just wanted to do whatever it was. As long as I was close to God's presence and I was around God's people, that's all that really mattered. So I would say, like, if you're looking for your calling, like, just take the next practical step. Get plugged in. Start serving. Start doing something with your life.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I was doing nothing with my life before Jesus.
Yeah.
So.
Because I think that a lot of times we're looking for this, like, Moses in the burning bush moment.
Yeah, for sure.
And it just doesn't happen like that every time. Like some people I've heard, like they have like a vision and they'll get like knocked out, like slain in the spirit, and they're gone, and they're not even like they're alone in their room. But then some people, they have these smaller moments of obedience that sort of culminate into something that's great, because God has something great and specific for all of us, a specific and fantastic like role in his kingdom and how we can serve. But for some of us, it's going to look like a burning bush. But I'd say probably for most people, for the average human being, I know this is how it was for me too. I just kind of kept taking one step forward. Yeah. Right? So you have this saying around what you just described that I'd love to dig into a little bit. And you're going to have to correct me if I'm wrong. But you got to hold a mop before you can take a mantle. Is that right?
Yeah, you have to hold a mop before you can take a mantle. You have to be ready to serve before you can be ready to lead. I think, like, and even to like tag along with what you're saying, it's like I realized like pretty quickly that kingdom success in life, like walking in purpose, isn't something great you'll do in the future. It's your obedience to Jesus today. So I learned pretty quick, like, I want to be the best servant I possibly can be, because I think that's probably our general purpose. We're saved to serve. We've been called to serve God and to serve people. So that was my primary focus, to be like, let me pick up a mop before I try to pick up a mantle, before I try to pick up any type of leadership or influence anybody's life. Like, let me just be a servant for them.
Yeah. And I think that similarly, it's one of those things where we're talking general and specific purpose, right? So we've got these general purpose, like serving, being in God's presence, serving others, being in community. And then we've got the specific things, like for your season right now, your purpose is to be the youth pastor, specifically to the students in Brandon, in the Brandon area, right? So, but I think that there's a degree of, you can't find your specific purpose unless you've been obedient in your general purpose.
For sure.
Right? So, like, I know for me, it took hours and hours sitting on my face, like being on my face and praying and being in scripture and seeking after God before I had any inkling of what I was going to do. And I would like weep and try and figure out what I was going to do. And he'd give me dreams of like forever from now. And I'd be like, oh, cool, God. And there are dreams that he gave me whenever I was seeking those specific purposes that probably won't be fulfilled still for another like 20 years. Yeah. Because it's just kind of one step at a time. Yeah. It's like right now I need to be faithful where I am. Yeah. And I think that's kind of what you're getting at.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, God can't trust us with more if we can't be trusted with the little he's already given us.
Right.
You know?
There's what is it? The parable of the talents.
Yes, sir.
Right? The servants, the faithful servants, they come back with their 5 more and 2 more bags of gold. And the master says to them, well done, good and faithful servant. Yeah. You've been faithful with the small, so I can give you more responsibilities. Yeah. And that's really how it is. Yeah. If you can't be faithful where you are, then God's probably not going to open up more doors for you to grow into the greater callings and the greater purposes that God has.
Yeah, something you actually shared with me the other day, we were just kind of talking, hanging out. And Jeremiah was like, I don't want to be somebody who does good things. I want to do God things. And I like really, and I understood that, because even when you think of that parable, God is going to say good and faithful servant. He's going to come back and say, oh, you good and creative servant.
Mm.
He's going to
Wow.
come back and say, you good and like all over the place servant. You're
Yeah.
you good and like very hardworking servant. No, he's going to say, my good and faithful servant.
Wow.
So I believe that's when we go into the specifics of purpose in every season of our life. And I think it changes throughout time.
does,
It's not something like, hey, you're just going to be a pastor and that's it. You know,
Yep.
you're going to have many roles to play.
You hear stories like that. Of
Yeah, you
people
do.
That are like, they're pastors to this one community for like 60 years.
Yeah.
But from my experience, like watching people, they'll be like you're saying, it's like very seasonal.
For sure.
Where, like you have this calling to be in this position for a certain amount of
Yeah.
time, and then it changes.
And we're just called to be obedient in that season, right?
Yeah.
Like God will handle the results. We're responsible. We're responsible of our obedience.
Yeah.
For sure.
So then for specific purpose, how do you know when it's changing?
Yeah.
When you're moving from one season to the next? And I this is probably, you're like in this right
I'm
now,
yeah,
so-
I'm in the middle of this. I'll be honest, at least for me, it kind of just came out of the blue. So like I was saying earlier, like I just focused on serving. I wasn't focused on what platform I can get on or what leadership team I can be on. I just focused on where can I be obedient in the season. So for me, I was serving in youth ministry. I was serving in young adults ministry. I was getting plugged in, during kids weeks or whatever it is, right? Just doing whatever I could to just be faithful. And in that, there was moments I would like maybe looking in the moment didn't seem so divine or supernatural, but like looking back, there was moments where I have conversations with leaders or doors or opportunities would open up for me. And I would just, in confidence, just step into those things, you know? And even there was moments when I'm just in my prayer closet. I'm just spending time with God. And I was doing young adults ministry for about a year or so at this point, or about a year and a half. And he put it in my heart very, very, just like, I knew it was him. And he said, hey, I've called you to be a pastor.
Wow. Yeah.
But if I wasn't a servant first, I wouldn't have known that.
And I love that you said that you found this in your quiet time.
Yeah.
Because I love like those moments at like summer camps that you hear about. Like I was called to ministry at a summer camp and again at a youth convention, like these big moments. But even still, those were moments that weren't hype.
Yeah.
It wasn't during worship.
No.
It wasn't during an altar call. It was just me. It was honestly moments of frustration for me. And then I just like kind of prayed and I was like, God, what are you trying to speak to me?
Yeah.
And he was like, bam.
Yeah.
And it was just a moment where I humbled myself and was like, God, whatever you want,
That's good.
I'm in for it.
That's good.
You know? And whenever we get there to that moment, whatever you want. So like, don't say no to God for
Yeah.
anything. Don't put limits on what he wants to do in your life.
Yeah.
Whatever you want, I'm here for it.
Yeah.
Pastor Pete, I was talking to Pastor Pete. He's our South Shore location pastor. And he gave this fantastic analogy for when you kind of feel that God's presence is moving you somewhere else or your calling is shifting. He said, you kind of just notice that the cloud's moving. Because whenever the Israelites were wandering in the wilderness after the Red Sea and everything, whenever the cloud of God's presence settled somewhere, they settled.
Yeah.
And whenever it got up and started moving, they just
moved.
followed it.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, like, our specific purpose is just an expression of our general purpose, I think. Because our general purpose is just like obedience, just follow the Spirit. Well, if we're just following the Spirit, we're going to find our specific purpose.
For sure. He's going to lead us and guide us.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
If we're choosing every single day to not lean on our understanding and trust God with our life, he's going to lead us, right? Like I used to always tell our leaders at Young Adults, God longs for people's lives to be changed more than we do.
Ooh.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's like, even when you look at your own life, he longs to give you a reason for living. He longs to establish you and plant you somewhere where you can bring glory to him. So why worry about it? Like,
Yeah.
just be obedient and let like the cloud, let him lead you and let him guide you. Now, can that cloud be resting for years?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it can be resting for years.
Absolutely.
Can it be resting for months and then get up and go? Yeah, for sure. But that's just kind of where, once again, we are not responsible for the results. We're responsible for our obedience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then to take that, it would be like your calling, like, how did you just say it? You said, you'll have to remind me. Oh gosh.
Is it about like the future thing? Like,
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So like, kingdom success or walking in purpose isn't something great you'll do in the future. It's your obedience to Jesus today. Yeah.
So then your faithfulness is like, your faithfulness today is setting you up for your calling tomorrow.
Exactly.
Right? So then if you're looking for a place where you can find your calling, the first step is right in front of you.
Right in front of you.
Get plugged in. Find people that you can connect with that are going to call you deeper into like who God's calling you to be. like you were saying, pick up a mop, get involved somehow, and man, just get on your face.
Yeah.
Get crying, get vulnerable in front of God. He already knows what you're going to say. And, that's what it was. You said God is more desperate to see people's lives change than we are, right?
Yeah.
So then I would take that to the next step and say, God is more desperate to see you fulfill the calling that he has on you than you are.
That's good.
That's crazy. God is more desperate to see me fulfill who he's calling me to be than I am.
Yeah.
And like, I remember weeping in my car, like crying out to God alone and being like, God, what is it that you want me to do? I just want to be obedient to you long term. And I didn't even think about the fact that God was more desperate to see me become faithful and who he's calling me to be and all of the giftings and special things that he's made with me and that he's made in you. He's more desperate to see who you are come to completion and come to be obedient to him and be who he's called you to be in complete purpose than you are.
That's good. It takes a burden off of you.
It does.
It takes a huge burden off of you that you know the work that God started in your life, he's going to finish it.
Yeah.
Like it really does, because now I get to say, okay, I'm going to step into this new season of my life. I was doing young adults ministry for the last 2 years. Now I'm stepping into youth. And listen, y'all students are amazing. I love you guys, but like you guys are about to grow me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And now it's like I get to step into this and say, you know what, God? You are in control. You have established me here. If God calls you somewhere, he can sustain you somewhere. So now I can walk in without that burden of feeling so much pressure, because it's like, bro, if God brought me here, then I'm good.
If it's his will.
If it's his will, it's his. Come on, somebody.
If it's his will, it's his will.
And he paid it for it all. Yeah. Come on, somebody.
If he's called you somewhere, he's going to keep you there.
Yeah.
And he's going to take care of all of the mess. I was listening to this podcast. It was actually the same podcast that I got do God things, not just good things, right? And it said, whenever you get in like a sticky situation and you're thinking to yourself, man, what are you going to do? Don't like if God called you there, it's not your problem to solve.
Yeah.
Like you be faithful, but there are people, this guy was saying, whenever I get in like a sticky situation, I just look up to God and say, God, you called me here. What are you going to do about this? Which is like, that's bold.
That is bold. But it's kind of how we should be living our lives.
It is, because like, that's how we see in the Old Testament.
Yeah.
Moses, God leads them to the Red Sea, and Moses is like, God, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
We're going to die. What are you going to do?
Yeah. You brought me out of Egypt for this.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's so common, where sometimes we find ourselves in a purpose that's overwhelming, or find ourselves on the cusp of something that's scary, and we think to ourselves, man, I can't handle this. Well, you're daggum right.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think it's the point. He wants to find us there, right? Because in our weakness, that's where we can find his strength.
Yeah.
So like, I think that's almost why, like, man, like that question of what is my purpose is something we're going to ask as humans for the rest of our lives. Like, now I think you'll get to a point where like you find a little bit more confidence, like in saying, okay, I've seen where God's brought me, and I know he's established me here, and I know where he's leading me. Do I know the blueprint of that? Not necessarily, but I know the one who's in control.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, once again, where I find my confidence. It's like, okay, cool, you brought me out of Egypt. I don't know why I'm in the wilderness right now, but I know you're the one who brought me out of Egypt, and you promised me that there's a promised land coming afterwards.
Right.
So that's where I put my confidence and my hope in. I don't have to know the next step all the time, or the next 5 steps, but I know the one who's in control of everything.
Yeah.
So for sure.
That's good stuff, dude.
Yeah.
Well, as like one closing remark, if someone walked up to you and asked you, hey, I'm struggling, I'm fighting to find my specific calling and who God's calling me to be, or maybe I know what God's calling me to be or who God's calling me to be, but I'm terrified to be it. What would you say to them?
I think pretty simple, just keep going. You know,
press on
to the one who doesn't know what your calling is. Keep pressing into Jesus. If you're in God's presence, you're gonna know who he's made you to be. You'll be good. Trust me. Now, for the person who's scared, I would rather suffer the pain of obedience and growth than suffer the pain of not walking in my divine purpose.
Wow.
Because the truth is, if you're not walking your divine purpose, you will never find peace.
Wow.
You'll always be stressed. You'll always be anxious. You're going to experience those things walking your purpose too. I'm not denying that. But you will have no vision. You have no direction for your life if you're not. So I'd rather suffer the pain of walking, knowing that, okay, my finish line is Jesus. He's leading me and taking me there, than walking in blind.
Yeah.
So, for sure.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, man, thanks for being here.
Thank you, bro.
Love you, appreciate you.
Yeah.
Thank you for your faithfulness to God's
Thank
calling in this season.
Mhm.
And thank you
Yeah,
for
come on.
listening, for tuning in, for hanging out with
Yes,
us.
sir.
We'll see you next
Come
Wednesday.
on. See you
It's
guys.
going to be awesome.
Love you guys.
Love you.